Hello and welcome to a spicy brew, Premodern Living Death. This deck works around the card Living Death, which essentially swaps all creatures in play for all creatures in graveyards. So first we'll exile all creatures from graveyards, then we'll put all creatures in play into their owners' graveyards, and return all the ones we exiled into play. Like I said, it kind of just switches graveyards and play for both players. So that means we need a way to fill our graveyard, which is where Fluctuator comes in. Fluctuator makes cycling costs cost up to 2 less, meaning if it costs 2 to cycle, we can now cycle it for 0 or for free, meaning we can fill up our graveyard with loads of creatures very quickly. These are our premium cycling creatures. They're the ones with the biggest bodies and cheapest cycling costs. We'll definitely want 4 of each of the Primarch Escapee and Barkhide Mauler. However, Drifting Djinn, it does have quite a hefty upkeep cost, so we probably only want 1 or 2 copies of that one. After this, we have a choice. So we can either go for some less efficient beatdown creatures, although 2 of these do have evasion and they still remain excellently efficient at cycling. However, if you wanted something a bit beefier, you could perhaps try a land cycler. I don't really like these because I prefer to just draw a random card, because remember, we want to chain all these cycling effects, and if we get a basic land, we can't cycle that. So we probably only want 1 or 2 of those. Another option that you have is for much bigger and much more powerful creatures. However, these do cost 3 to cycle, meaning if we want to cycle them for free, we'll need 2 Fluctuators, or we need to just pay 1 mana if we have 1 Fluctuator. We could also play Krosan Tusker, which, that gives us loads of value and it's really good for cycling. It just kind of depends on how combo-y we want to be compared to sort of the value and how much of the living end plan we're going on. And we also have lands that have cycling, which can really help us to churn through our deck. Blasted Landscape is possibly the best one because it comes in untapped. The others do come in tapped, so I don't like those too much, but we will still play a few. We also have excellent tutors. I personally really like Gamble because it can get Living Death or Fluctuator. However, I could definitely see Enlightened Tutor being played because we really do rely on Fluctuator quite a lot in this build. And we do have another combo besides the Living Death combo. We can actually kill our opponent with Haunting Misery because it's kind of like a damage spell that works on how many creatures we exile from our graveyard. So if we've cycled loads, then that can shoot them for loads of damage. We also have Acceleration, so Ancient Tomb can help us by putting out a turn 1 Fluctuator. And then we have the option of Lotus Petal or Mox Diamond. Don't worry, you don't need the diamond, Petal works completely fine. And we'll probably only be playing 1 or 2 copies anyway. So the number of cycling lands we're going to play really depends on how we want to build our deck. If we're going for a more grindy approach with Living Death, then we probably won't want too many of these because coming into play tapped is annoying. However, if we're trying to go all in on the cycling plan to shoot them with the combo and Haunting Miseries, then we will want as many 2-mana cycling cards as possible so we can just combo through to find those key combo cards. And otherwise, we do have quite a few options for multicolored lands. Our main colors here will be red and black because, as I mentioned before, I really like Gamble. So you will also want some kind of soul land in this deck. Ancient Tomb is personally my favorite because it sticks around. However, there are budget options like Crystal Vein. Don't worry about the price tag. I think Crystal Vein would be perfectly good in this deck as well. And of course, if you're playing land cyclers, then you will want more basic lands because you'll need to fetch those out of your deck. Otherwise, don't feel like you have to play them. Just remember, our main colors are going to be red and black. And as far as other specialty lands go, most decks in Premodern play these, but we actually will not. And the reason why is because our specialty lands are the cycling lands. We really need to keep a high count of cards that can cycle, just so we can really churn through our deck very quickly. And for other options, I could definitely see a Burning Wish build with Living Death in the sideboard. There's also a lot of other cycling cards that you could play, and some kind of disruption like Unmask or Duress would also be great. As we do really rely on Fluctuator, the sideboard will play Argravian Find so we can get it back if they kill it. We also have Orim's Chant to stop counter spells, and Engineered Plague against elves or goblins. And there's also quite a few other cycling cards that can just randomly help us in different situations. Stifle is also another card that's super useful because it can stop Tormod's Crypt and some kind of graveyard hate. So when playing the deck, essentially from our starting hand, we just want an early Fluctuator. If we have that, it really is half of the battle done. We're just trying to play a Fluctuator as soon as we can and just start comboing off. So ideally, we'll play a turn 1 Tomb into a Fluctuator, and then after that, we can just start cycling through our deck. From this point, hopefully we've drawn a Lotus Petal and a Songs of the Damned, so we can use those to add loads and loads of mana. And then we can either play Haunting Misery, exiling all those creatures to shoot our opponent for lethal, or if we don't have that, then we'll have a Living Death, so we can just play Living Death and return them all to play, and hopefully some of them will have haste, meaning they can attack straight away. But also don't worry if you don't do this turn 1, obviously that's not going to happen every game, so we can also just untap, take another turn, keep cycling some more, and then play a Living Death a bit further down the line. That's also why I like the Soul Lands, because they speed this process up. So against the deck, of course, Tormod's Crypt, Graveyard Hate, will definitely see that. It's really good against everything that this deck is trying to do. Also, counterspells can stop everything we're trying to do as well, and can be very useful. If we get an enchantment like Humility or Worship in play, it can be very, very difficult for us to deal with, especially game 1, so those can be quite backbreaking as well. We're firmly a combo deck here. Against aggro, we're just trying to combo off as quickly as possible, and Living Death is generally brutal against aggro decks. Against control, we're still trying to combo, but there may be a chance that the game just goes really long and we can start actually casting our big threats. And so strengths of the deck, it's fun, it's unique, and it can combo multiple times. You know, if they wrath and kill all your stuff, you can just Living Death again. It also can win on turn 1, which while this doesn't happen very often, it's still a really nice thing that just sometimes we get free wins. And the deck is surprisingly consistent if you're playing lots of tutors, and it can be extremely cheap if you build a very budget version of it. Weaknesses, it really does rely on Fluctuator, and some of the hate cards can be quite brutal. So here's an example list, but as always, because this is a spicy brew, you may want to play around with it. Perhaps the mana base probably could have been better. And I would normally say check out TC decks, but this list isn't on TC decks, so I would say the regular Fluctuator builds are the closest thing you'll find. Definitely check those out. And otherwise, thank you for watching. Please do like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And see you next time.